Today I'm working on another batch of jam. It's going to be carrot cake jam. Even better, it's going to be low sugar carrot cake jam. Do you have someone in your family who needs to reduce their sugar intake? Maybe someone who's diabetic, or someone who's borderline diabetic, or just needs to cut back on their sugars and carbs in some way. I am going to be making a low sugar carrot cake jam. A few days ago I made a low sugar mixed berry jam, and I'll share the link to the video for that one right here. And this time I'm going to make up some carrot cake. Neither my husband or I have ever had carrot cake jam before, but carrot cake is one of his favorites, so why not give it a whirl? There are recipes out there all over the place. This one I got from food.com, and I will make sure to put the link in the description below. And I invite you to stick around and see how this comes together. We'll do a taste test at the end. Back down to the countertop. I have more veggies to prep. I need 1.5 cups of grated carrots. This specific recipe calls for apples, but the original recipe I saw called for pears, and I don't have apples in the house. I bought pears specifically for this recipe, so I'm going to go with pears. The original recipe for carrot cake jam came out of this Bernardin Complete Book of Home Preserving. There's an exact equivalent called Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving, and it's even got exactly the same label on it. It just says Ball instead of Bernardin. Page for page, these books are exactly the same. The original carrot cake jam recipe in here calls for 6.5 cups of sugar. Yeah, that's a lot of sugar. And the recipe I'm doing today from the food.com website calls for 2.5 plus some stevia. I'm going to leave the stevia out of it because I don't have any, and it's not necessary for the function of the recipe. It's more required for flavor, and we're actually looking for a lower sugar taste. We don't want something that's going to melt our teeth when we taste it. This will be great the way it is. Pineapple and pears are already adding to the sweetness, so adding 2.5 cups of sugar, I think that will be plenty. Okay, I've taken the time to put my jars in a sink of hot water so that the hot jam is going into hot jars. I have my stock pot here. I'm not using my giant canner for this because I'm only going to have 3 or 4 jars, maybe 5 jars. They will all fit in my soup pot. I have a rack in the bottom, and that's on the back waiting for me to get started. I have 20 minutes that I have to simmer this, so that can be turned on when I get going. I already have all of the ingredients that I need for this step measured out and ready to go. We're going to start with 1.5 cups of grated carrots. Then it said to pack those cups. I did okay with that. It calls for 1.5 cups. That was 2 carrots. It calls for 1.5 cups of diced apples. I have pears, and that was 2 pears. Oops, don't knock anything on the floor. I have 1 3/4 cups of crushed pineapple with the juice. That was a 540 ml can. I think it was 540 mils, and I didn't need all of it. And 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1/4 cup of water. When you use Pomona's Pectin, they give you 2 different pouches of material. One is to be mixed with water to make calcium water. It helps the pectin to set. So I need 2 teaspoons of that calcium water. 1, 2. Now this can sit in the fridge and keep until I need it again. I need a teaspoon of cinnamon. I need 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, but I didn't have ground nutmeg, so I replaced it with a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. I figured these spices are just about interchangeable, but I didn't want to overpower it with the allspice flavoring. So cinnamon, allspice, cloves, and cardamom. And then I would put in 1/2 teaspoon of liquid stevia, which I am not going to be using, and 1 cup of brown sugar. Let's stir that well. Now I'm going to bring this to a boil over high heat, and I'm going to stir frequently. At the same time, I'm going to turn on this pot of water at the back of the stove for my for the canning process, for my water bath can. If you have hard water where you live, you can put a splash of vinegar in your canning water to keep the calcium from depositing on your jars. You get white chalky surface on your jars. Okay, I've got that to come to a boil now. I need to cover that and reduce the heat and let it boil gently for 20 minutes. Let's turn that heat down. During that 20 minutes, I have time to clean my dishes off. I've measured out 1.5 cups of white sugar. And then I'm going to need 2 teaspoons of Pomona's Pectin that I'm going to mix right in with the sugar. Pomona's Pectin comes with some recipes, a package of Pectin, and the packages are labeled. This one says Pectin, and the other one that is for the calcium water, and it does say calcium on it. So what did I say I needed? Oh, the forgetful brain. 2 teaspoons. There we go, 2 teaspoons, and you just mix that together so the pectin is dispersed evenly through the sugar. This helps prevent clumping. I do have some clumps of sugar in there though. They'll dissolve as soon as they hit the liquid. Okay, that mix on the stove is on a low boil, just like it was supposed to be. And now I have time to get this put away as well. I still have 15 minutes left. I'm just keeping these in a plastic bag to keep them airtight. And my calcium water is going back in the fridge. Those spices are smelling up the whole house. It smells fantastic. It smells like carrot cake in my house right now. I'm excited to try this. This is a new recipe to me. I've never tried it before, and it just sounds decadent. I can just imagine softening a bit of jam and putting it across the top of ice cream, or across the top of my plain homemade yogurt, or on a slice of toast. And we use a brand called Carbonate. It is gluten-free, and it's also low carb. I'm eating it because it's gluten-free, and yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm going to bring the camera over and we'll watch the next steps from up close. While I'm waiting for that, I'm also going to get out a tea towel to put my jars on, and I'm going to get out all the utensils I need to actually do the scooping and the funnel and all of that. While I still have 10 minutes left in my 20-minute timer here, I was reading over the last details of the recipe because I just skimmed past it and didn't think about what is the headspace and how long does it have to cook. Water bath can. They didn't put down a headspace in this recipe. The recipe that's on food.com. A recipe I made from Pomona's Pectin just a few days ago needed a 1/4 inch headspace on those jars, and this cookbook here with their carrot cake jam recipe also says a 1/4 inch of headspace, and I'm going to go with that. And then 10 minutes in the water bath canner. I found that in both recipes. This is incredible. It smells so amazing. I still have about 5 minutes left. Okay, the timer has gone off. This stage is completed. I'm going to stir that. And then I add my sugar and pectin. And I like to add this in sections, like in small portions. I don't want to throw it all in at once because I want that pectin to dissolve. I'm going to add that in stages. Okay, now I have to bring that back to a boil. Okay, there we go. I've got that back to the boil. Okay, I've taken that jam off the heat and I'm ready to bottle it. I just had a quick look at that other recipe. It calls for exactly the same measures of all the carrots and pear or apple and pineapple juice, but it calls for 6.5 cups of sugar. There's no way. This is 2.5. That's like just about down to 1/3 of the amount of sugar. And it smells fantastic. I'm sure it's going to be plenty sweet enough. On to the bottling. My canning funnel, my clean jars, clean heated jars. And there we go. A 1/4 inch headspace. That actually could use a tablespoon more. There we go. Oh, I forgot. I have to move this canner, my water bath canner, onto this burner and get it boiling now. I think I have enough for another larger jar. I was going to start using the small jars if I needed them, but I think I have enough to do this next size up. This is not exactly gelling yet, but it's the consistency of applesauce. Let's see how that worked out. Let's make sure there are no air bubbles trapped underneath. This jar is a little too full. This jar is a little shy. Let's just balance that. And this is still a little too full, and this one can handle it. There we go. Now, because I gooped jam all around the top of these, I am going to wipe those. You can use vinegar, especially if it's something fatty. You would want to use vinegar on your cloth. I'm just using water today because it's going to dissolve that sugar content quite nicely. My canner behind me is boiling. Oh, that's hot. Gonna get a fresh part of my towel here. Now, if you had clean dishcloths that you trusted, you could use that instead of a paper towel. Right now, my kitchen dishcloths are very stained. I need to replace them. And this is just fingertip tight. That is, you give it a spin, and only as tight as you can get it with your thumb and 2 fingers. Not really scorching tight, because you need to have any air bubbles escape out of that if necessary. So I'm going to set these in my canner now. You can clearly see that is boiling hard. And I do have a rack in the bottom of that, and I have enough water in there that it covers the jars by about 1 inch or 2. Especially once you get all of the jars in there, it pushes the water level up a little bit. There we go. After that comes back to a full boil, I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. All right, my 10-minute timer has gone off. Let's shut that off. And remove the jars from the hot water. You might have questioned, why didn't I boil and sterilize those jars and lids? The new science is showing that as long as you are pressure canning or water bath canning for 10 minutes or longer, you don't have to sterilize your jars. It doesn't matter anymore. The lids, some of the newer lids, you do have to put boiling water on them or at least soak them in hot water, but most of them these days you don't have to actually boil the lids. As long as your containers are clean to start with and your lids and rings and everything are clean to start with, it doesn't matter anymore. You don't have to sterilize your jars. That is a huge task taken out of the way. You could still, of course, run them through your dishwasher if you wanted to, unsanitize, or put them in the oven to keep them hot while you're preparing on top of the stove. I just put mine in a sink of hot water, like as hot as I can get it, and I just leave them there resting until, as I'm working the process, until I need them. Let's get these out of the canner. I only got 4 jars out of this recipe, but that's plenty. Low sugar carrot cake jam. So what do I think of the end results of the carrot cake jam? Look at how thick that's set up. That is fantastic. It gelled beautifully. It tastes great. You can really, there's still texture to it. You can tell the difference between the pear, the carrot, and the pineapple, and I like that. If you wanted more pineapple texture, you could use tidbits. I used crushed, and it worked really well. If it was any more sweet, it would just be sweet. If it was any less sweet, it would be carrot and pineapple and pears with some spices. But it turned out great. This amount of sugar is just perfect. I got this recipe from food.com. I will put a link in the description below. And be sure to stop by and visit Constance at Cosmopolitan Cornbread. She's organized and hosting the collaboration for March Canning Madness. And she'll be putting on a playlist with all the other contributing videos. And yeah, this is delicious. I can imagine this mixed up, like smoothed out a little bit, maybe warmed in the microwave a little bit, and then drizzled on top of your ice cream or spread on top of some yogurt. Oh, this is really good. I can't resist. That is so good. It made 4 jars, all 4 of my jars sealed, and now I have some jam to share with my son. Low sugar carrot cake jam. Who knew it would be so delicious? Thanks for hanging out today, guys. I'll see you next time.